We are on the verge of a major atmospheric shift, and the incoming extreme weather pattern demands serious attention. The latest data continues to indicate elevated probabilities of destructive winds sweeping across the Ohio Valley, prompting an increased risk level for severe weather this Saturday. This system will carry the potential for large hail and isolated tornadoes, particularly across Tennessee and Kentucky, stretching through the Ozarks and extending south into northern Louisiana and Mississippi, where dangerous wind damage is also expected. At the same time, a powerful cold front is forecast to surge across the nation next week, dragging temperatures into the 40s and 50s, with wind chills dipping into the 40s deep into the southern United States. In addition, a tropical wave is advancing into the Caribbean early next week. While this blast of cold air should deflect any direct U.S. impact from the tropical system, it still poses a significant threat to parts of the Caribbean, including Jamaica, Nicaragua, Honduras, the Yucatán Peninsula, Belize, Cuba, and the Cayman Islands, with possible effects reaching Bermuda and even far south Florida depending on the evolution of the pattern and the persistence of this incoming Arctic air mass. However, based on current trends, a major Gulf of Mexico threat appears unlikely. Severe weather setup intensifies. Looking at atmospheric vorticity, storms will begin firing Thursday into Friday evening from Oklahoma through Kansas into northern Missouri. The real outbreak ignites late Friday into Saturday, as daytime heating combines with tropical moisture streaming northward, creating a volatile, severe weather environment. A broad corridor of severe storms will form from Oklahoma, Arkansas and Missouri through Illinois and Indiana, fueled by powerful winds aloft. By late Saturday, the system pivots aggressively toward the Tennessee-Kentucky Valley, Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley, pushing toward the northeast where another intense storm system may emerge, bringing strong damaging winds across the region. Meanwhile, a second storm system is expected 4 or 5 days later, potentially sparking thunderstorms across parts of the Ohio Valley, though details are still uncertain. Beyond that, a series of deep upper troughs carve southward into the U.S. next week, enforcing a colder, storm-fed pattern across much of the nation. Dangerous storm ingredients. Lining up as the main storm evolves, heavy rainfall and severe storm clusters will explode Friday into Saturday from Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Missouri through Illinois and Indiana. With strong instability and intense lift, storms will rapidly organize, especially near the Ozarks. Saturday morning storms, Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, Missouri, southern Wisconsin, and eastern Iowa. Evening intensification, explosive storm growth over the Ozarks. Limited instability over Ohio Valley may reduce storm severity there temporarily. Sunday, lingering storms capable of destructive winds. Jet stream winds aloft over eastern Oklahoma, northern Arkansas, and southern Missouri will maintain intense storm development through the evening. Discrete supercells ahead of the main line remain the greatest tornado threat. Wind gusts of 40-60 plus MP are likely as storms race north into Canada and possibly the northeast by late Sunday into Monday. Risk zones Friday. Severe wind and hail threat from Texas to Canada. Low tornado risk. Saturday. 5% to 15% severe risk marked across the Arklatex, Ozarks, and Mississippi Valley. Threats, tornadoes, destructive winds, and large hail from late morning through overnight. Incoming cold blast and tropical interactions. Following the severe weather, a significant cold front crashes south. The coldest air arrives between the 27th-28th, after which a strong high-pressure block breaks down over the Caribbean, potentially deflecting the tropical wave west into the Pacific or east into the Atlantic. While this should spare the U.S. from major impacts, Caribbean nations remain under threat. Long-range data from the European model, ECMWF, suggests that after the 28th, the U.S. will transition back into a warmer pattern for the end of October into early November. But before then, prepare for a sharp temperature plunge and multiple storm systems. As we move into next week, beginning on Tuesday, a surge of cold Arctic air will drive temperatures into the 40s across much of the central and eastern United States, with upper 40s to low 50s possible across the southeast and stretching toward the northeast. However, The Rocky Mountains will plunge into far more frigid conditions, dropping into the 20s, possibly even the teens in some higher elevations. Once you factor in the wind chill, the cold will feel even more intense. The north-central states will experience feels-like temperatures in the 20s, delivering a sharp reminder that winter is closing in fast. The GFS model agrees with this forecast, but suggests a slightly warmer variation of the cold pattern, particularly near the Gulf Coast. As we move closer, model alignment will improve, and I'll keep you updated with fresh data. Wednesday. The second push of cold air surges south, potentially reaching all the way to the Gulf Coast, bringing 40s and 50s once again, along with biting wind chills. Thursday. Another reinforcing cold wave spreads 40-degree lows deep into the southeast. Friday. Yet another push of cold air arrives, keeping wind chills uncomfortable across multiple regions. Even though some models, like the GFS, still show slightly warmer pockets along parts of the Gulf, the overall trend is undeniably colder air dominating much of the nation throughout the week. Heavy rain and flooding concerns over the next 5 days. Heavy rainfall will drench the Pacific Northwest, delivering 1–2 inches across Oregon and Washington, with additional rainfall moving through Idaho, Montana, and the Dakotas. But the eastern U.S. will also begin picking up precipitation, with widespread 1–2 inches of rain expanding toward the Great Lakes in Canada. By Saturday, the Storm Prediction Center highlights a marginal risk of flash flooding. A slight flood threat stretching from Arkansas into southern Indiana. Please stay alert, especially in areas vulnerable to flooding. The ground will already be soaked from multiple rounds of storms. Latest tropical development outlook. As of the time of this update, the tropics remain quiet, but conditions are expected to change. I am expecting a yellow X to appear soon in the Caribbean from the National Hurricane Center, marking an area of possible tropical development. The setup continues to suggest tropical formation between October 22nd and 28th, with 40–80% development probabilities still on the table. This will likely come in 2 parts. A tropical wave entering the Caribbean, the Central American, Gyre becoming active again. These two could merge to form a developing tropical system. However, a series of cold fronts sweeping across the United States will suppress northward movement of the system, keeping it blocked south in the Caribbean. This setup reduces the threat to the U.S., increases the threat to Central America and the Western Caribbean, could still bring flooding rain and stormy conditions to Jamaica, Honduras, Belize, Nicaragua, and the Yucatán Peninsula, southern Florida, and the Bahamas may see disorganized storms. If any part of the system drifts northeastward, model trends currently show no major threat to the Gulf of Mexico, which appears shielded by strong high pressure and hostile wind shear. Model signals. Euromodel shows possible formation in 8 to 10 days, but blocked by high pressure and dry air intrusion. GFS shows early suppression and dissipation. No U.S. threat. Canadian model shows development but severely weakened by wind shear ensembles, still struggling to lock in a solution due to hostile wind shear and dry atmospheric air. Bottom line, Caribbean nations should pay close attention, but at this time the Gulf Coast remains well protected. Final note, special message before I close. I want to share a brief but important message of faith. Recently, Jehovah's Witnesses came to my door, and I turned them away after one question I always ask. Do you believe Jesus Christ is God? They do not, and this belief is dangerous to your home and your spirit. The Bible warns us in 2 John 9:11. Whosoever does not abide in the doctrine of Christ does not have God. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your house or greet him, for whoever greets him takes part in his evil works. Have a blessed day, and remember, defend your home and your neighbors in both spirit and truth. Thank you guys. See you next video.